Embracing your dark side. In our spiritual journey, each of us carries a dark side, a mystical aspect within us made up of old energies and experiences. Make no mistake, that energy is alive and has been spoken about through many Celtic mythologies as the darker light twin, or the brother and sister, or the father and son, but one is always light and one depicted as dark. This shadow holds the lessons that we've not yet integrated and the emotions that we tuck away. And like all energies, it resides in our subconscious or conscious sometimes, waiting to be acknowledged through shadow work, is what people are calling it nowadays. According to wisdom I've gathered over the years, energy, like cycles of the moon, never truly dies. It can, however, transform. The dark side self consists of these negative experiences that were never fully processed and healed at the time that they happened. So to stay alive, the dark side energy has to gather all energies of past pains, which can enable it to grow into a powerful entity if it's left unattended. And if left too long, it can take over the mind. In other words, if we either ignored them to like a negative experience or feeling to deal with it later, but we never did, or we didn't have a parent or a caregiver around that time to help us navigate that circumstance, so we buried it, then the dark side is able to grow. As caretakers of the spirit, parents have a sacred role to check in with our children when they become distressed and intervene to help them embrace their negative emotions in order to learn to self-soothe on their own when they start their own clan. But sometimes children don't share their feelings with parents because they were embarrassed or scared to do so. So they didn't know the parent or were unable to catch it. So parents don't catch these things all the time. And this is still okay. It's harder to do this, however, when the child becomes a teenager. So make sure you do this often so that by the time they do become teenagers, they're able to do so. It is only when the main parent is too entangled with their own dark side that this becomes a problem. So the children of these type parents will feel disconnected, and these energies inside them will then solidify into a larger dark side. And you can see this with all children who have had to take care of siblings, handle adult responsibilities, or provide emotional support to their parent because the parent was facing their own struggles. So this leads to the child growing up too quickly. A child who has suffered from this is what is called parentification, are more at risk of developing depression, eating disorders, or personality disorders. And they also display higher anxiety levels and extreme emotional drama. But that's a whole other subject. Everyone bears a dark side. It's just part of the human condition. Meditation on the duality of light and darkness. It can even pass through an entire culture or through generations as ancestral healing echoes. We can inherit it from our parents who got it from theirs, etc. So recognizing it grants us spiritual empowerment and strength to keep it in check. The shadow self can show itself through negative emotions like fear, anger, or despair, hurt, anxiety, and alienation, or even people who create drama, making mountains out of molehills of something really trivial. And these emotions reveal parts of ourselves that we have ignored and forgot to heal, and just how much our dark side has taken over. Because all negative emotions are normal. It's if they're over the top. It's like tides hidden below until stirred by the storm. But even these normal ones feeds the dark side. So for some, this shadow emerges occasionally, and others feel its presence more persistently. But make no doubt about it, pain body or your dark side energy is alive. And like any virus, it will lay dormant until somebody changed plans, something happened to make you late, or somebody said something that made you upset, and then it erupts. It feeds by attracting more pain that matches itself. It attracts people who haven't healed or just went through something similar. Those that have a large dark side entity have a totally hijacked mind, and they look for things to make people mad or themselves mad or sad or scared, and it wants to keep this feeding going. So it will instigate a fight with a spouse, a friend, a family member, provoke a passive-aggressive reaction from a family member, friend, spouse, boss, or client, and that way they can blame the other, and most likely has developed a personality or disorder, or they see everyone around the person that they want as a threat. So when the shadow self takes over, it affects our whole being, altering beliefs and perceptions. And it becomes our core belief, which is sad. It's akin to spiritual hijacking. Our dark side thrives on unacknowledged fears and hidden sorrows, and eventually it turns into physical illness. Some fortunate people have only occasional outbreaks of the dark side. Others live in an almost constant state of pain and misery, always unhappy, depressed, or angry. And many have perhaps manifested physical problems as well, such as eating disorders or other illnesses. This is when their dark side takes over the entire mind, both conscious and subconscious. Their identity has now changed to the core belief of, I am a loser, or perhaps my spouse is a narcissist, an abuser, or a drug addict, or an alcoholic, or I'm an awful, worthless person. No one thinks I'm interesting. If people get to know the real me, they'll always leave. That was one I had. I'm flawed. I'm always sick. I can't get better. I have nothing to look forward to in my life. Even when there's no outside reality, they will believe this. Just like viruses take over the DNA in our cells, the dark side literally hijacks that thinking part of the mind. All of us parents have experienced our children deliberately trying to provoke us into anger to feed their pain body. And now as adults, we need to recognize this in ourselves. Here are some signs that you are trying to numb your dark side from coming out. You act everything out. That's similar to identifying with it. For example, you might start a fight with your spouse just to prove your point that they are a hurtful person, or they are an abuser, or they are whatever you think they are, or they don't love you. You will do that on purpose. You don't know that you're doing it because your subconscious has taken over. Or you might throw up your hands and cry on this little tiny thing that set you off, and you run away or shut people out. You might numb it by drinking alcohol or getting stoned or using drugs or eat a bunch of comfort foods, or you've become a workaholic so you can ignore it that way, or you're always crying or complaining until finally, after a few years, your friends stop believing you, dealing with you, they stop coming around because you're a handful, or you have just had enough because there's no balance, no give and take, and you end up getting a new set of friends, and it just happens over and over. You know you need help when you have ample opportunity to fix any of the things that I've mentioned, but you're still stuck on repeat. You know you don't like hearing negative things, so you either avoid the conversation completely, or you fail to keep your temper down and you lash out anyways. This means that your dark side is hungry and you've stayed in the negative atmospheres too long. But the good news is that you can break this cycle. By following these steps, you will dismantle the influence of your dark side in your life. You have to build emotional intelligence. And ultimately, this will enhance the efficiency of your spells and the journey of knowing thyself and embracing all aspects of your being leads to a powerful transformation, not only in your spell work, but in all areas of your life. You cannot do spells until you take steps to empower your spells through working with your dark side. Yet through mystical arts and self-awareness, we can transform this energy. Here are the steps to transcend and integrate your dark side. The steps to transcend and integrate your dark side are entwined with your spiritual practices. 1. Acknowledge your dark side. When you feel its presence, honor it. 2. Compassionate observation. View your shadow with the gentle eyes of the Great Mother. Neither resist nor engage. Instead, breathe deeply when you feel it coming on and count from 5 to 0. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now your focus is on counting, and it disrupts the negative emotion from taking over. And just be an observer and then ground it into the earth's embrace through sacred ritual. 3. Cultivating sacred emotional intelligence. Develop spiritual resilience by expanding your awareness. Self-awareness. Recognize emotions as sacred signals and part of your energy transformation. Empathy and listening. Attune your soul to others' experiences, forging deeper connections with the web of life. See through their eyes, hear, touch, and feel and smell by how they experienced it. This is the only way we grow. You cannot grow stuck in your own view. Emotional harmony. Use grounding practices and meditation breaths to allow emotions to flow and recede like sacred rites. So be the observer. Just observe like you're watching yourself as a third party. And 4, alchemy and gratitude. Harness the transformative power of gratitude. Alchemize the dark shadows into light, scribing blessings to honor your journey. Transmuting these energies paves the way for empowered spell work and inner balance. Okay, so what does that all mean? I'll give you an example of these 4 steps in real life. When you switch jobs, move to a new place, listen to someone else's day or problems, burn your supper and drop your lunch on the floor or break a dish. Just acknowledge it, feel the upset, but this time surrender to it. Let it be there, just observe it, curse if you want to, and then just breathe and count from 5 to 0. Then say the facts in your head without any emotion attached to them. I spilled my lunch on the floor and I broke a glass. Nothing more, nothing less. Be present in the reality of it. Oh yeah, and then clean it up. But don't feed the negative. Don't feed that dark side. Switch gears. And you choke it out and it can't eat. This will eventually keep it at bay and keep it where it's supposed to be, and it won't grow. Negative emotions are just feelings too. And both positive and negative feelings come and go. So don't keep one over the other. So I'll leave you off with this. In life's daily rituals, getting up, making coffee, making toast, whatever you do in the morning, remember to acknowledge challenges, whether it's a spilt drink or an interrupted plan. Affirm the reality with a calm heart and shift your focus. This journey to wholeness and embracing all aspects of ourselves align with a powerful spiritual transformation. I hope this was a good lesson today. I will see you next Friday for another one.